Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today I'm bringing you guys 5 things that you need to stop doing in World of Warships. So I've got 5, I guess you could call them habits down here that I see quite a few players doing, that these are pretty detrimental to your doing well in the game, and by stopping these habits, you will become a better player. They're pretty simple things for the most part too. Nothing here is like some super secret ultra unicum strategy or anything like that. Just 5 simple habits that you can break that will improve your time with the game. So let's go ahead and get started. Starting out at number 1, which is stop not using the full alternative HUD. So this is something that I did too for quite some time. If you go back and watch some of my really early videos, not that I'd recommend anybody do that, those are quite terrible. The base HUD is very minimal. It doesn't really give you a lot of information about the match or the enemy ships. Now the alternative HUD gives you a load of important information, such as the detailed health of enemy and friendly ships, which is obviously very important in combat. It also gives you details on the flight time of your shells when you're in the ADS view, which is useful when predicting how far you need to lead the target. As most of you know, ships have very different shell velocities and characteristics. And let's use the American battleships for example. I've talked about their velocity several times over the past month or so. They have very slow shells. It takes their shells shoot. We are firing at ranges of 18 kilometers plus, around 15, sometimes 20 seconds to get to the target. And when you have the alternative HUD on, it tells you this flight time in the ADS view. So this gives you a better idea of how far away you need to lead your shells from the target. And also the detailed health bars that give you the exact number of hit points that ship has left. If it's an enemy ship, you have a really good idea of what exactly you need to do to that ship, where you need to perhaps aim for. Like if it's let's say a battleship that still has 20,000 HP left, then you know, well, I still need to hit the chunky parts of his ship, the parts of the ship that I can pin with my battleship guns. Or if he's got like 2,000 HP left, you can just lob some shells into a superstructure, into a part of the ship that you can overpin, and you'll probably secure that kill for your team. It also gives you more information about your friendly team's health as well. You can see exactly, again, how much health that ship has left on it, and again, are these ships going to be able to take a full salvo from the enemy team, or are they fairly low? And I know that they're probably not going to help me when I go to push, so do I just need to turn around and kite? It gives you that important information about your team and the enemy team, and it's just one click. So to turn this on, you go to the settings, you go to the controls tab, then down in the bottom left you see alternative interface. It should be probably off for most of you, and if you don't know, this is the interface you get by hitting Alt on your keyboard, or if you have a really fancy MLG gamer mouse, it has the I think, it's normally on the right side by the right mouse. You can click the button there and it'll bring it up. This is just making that HUD stay on the entire time. So you click it from off to full, and it gives you all this information. And trust me, this will make your life better. It made mine a lot better once I turned it on way back in the day. Alright, the second tip I have for you is stop ignoring destroyers. Destroyers are absolutely the most important class for your team or the enemy team. Destroyers provide a number of services. Spotting, to name the biggest one first. Screening for enemy destroyers, torpedo screening, AA cover for certain nations, aerial denial with their torpedoes, capping caps, etc. You can go on and on and on. ASW, again, fighting other DDs, being some really darn good distractions with the gunboat DDs like the Kaba and the Kleber. They're the first ship type that needs to be sunk. Look at your next blowout match. 9 out of 10 times, the team that gets rolled has just about all of their DDs sunk in the first few minutes of the game. Now, many players like to scream noob DD because of this. Well, is your team really supporting them? Destroyers players have a lot on their plates at the beginning of the match. So, you not helping them live is pretty darn detrimental to your team, because if those DDs die, this leaves the team blind and extremely vulnerable. Shooting at destroyers can be frustrating. They're very nimble, and even when you do hit them, even in cruisers, unless you have God HE like the Japanese cruisers or the British cruisers, you'll probably just overpin them. But it needs to happen. And do keep in mind too, the game rewards you for the percentage of damage done to a ship versus their overall health. So if you do hit that DD, even if you overpin him, do 6,000 damage, even on tier 10 DDs, that's what, a third of the ship's health? So removing a third or half of a DD's health in one shot is the same as removing half of a battleship's HP in one shot. You won't see the big damage numbers, but the game will still give you the rewards in the XP and credits department as if you did that to a battleship. So not only do you need to shoot the red team's DDs, you also need to support your DDs. Move up close with them. I'm not saying, be a kilometer behind them, but be close enough to where you can provide them with effective fire support. Not from 15, 16 kilometers away, but maybe 10 or 12. And also, if you have radar, when your DD gets in that cap and the cap's contested, pop that radar, make sure you got full radar coverage on the cap, light up that enemy DD, and again, help your DD kill that DD and assert his dominance in the cap. So make sure you're doing that. In short, sink the red Doritos, protect the green Doritos. Third thing to stop doing, stop playing just one class. This game has 5 classes for you to choose from, all with certain strengths and weaknesses. It takes time to learn them when you're playing them. Even someone like me that plays this game for a second job still doesn't know the ins and out of every single class and all their little subclasses within those classes. I'm still getting into DDs right now, and even then only gunboat DDs, not the torpedo boat DDs, nor the hybrids that are kind of a blend of torp boat and gunboat. I made this mistake when I first started playing with just playing battleships all those years ago and not touching another class until almost a year later. Only playing one class leaves you completely blind as to how to deal with other classes. Sure, you may have a general idea how light cruisers work, for example, but that knowledge will only take you so far. For example, they're HE spammy ships, they're generally lightly armored, and they're fairly nimble. Okay, that's some good knowledge to know, but again, that's only going to take you so far. However, if you play light cruisers, then you'll have an in-depth knowledge about where they're going to go for their position, their firing range, what targets they can engage easily, what builds they're probably running, how they maneuver, so forth and so on. That will then do 2 things for you. 1, you'll know how to deal with them better. For example, they probably won't open up if you're with 2 or 3 other ships, because then they'll get focused down, or they're going to try and get to island cover first. Then you'll know on the maps in the game where they're probably going to head, and where to either A, go to counter them, so you want to take a wide berth around an island and get almost behind the island so you can blap them when they're hugging that island, or 2, where you can go to avoid them if you want to do that as well. It will also make you a better player in general, because you'll be more varied in your abilities in the game. And if you're looking to join a clan or something, one of the most important things that clans look at when they're trying to recruit players is, okay, what does this player have? Oh, he's got a bunch of BBs. That's cool. We got 200 other BB players applying for our clan. But oh, look, he plays BBs, cruisers, DDs, and he's fairly decent in all of that. You're probably going to get in. So a general thing I would recommend doing is grinding up a main line with your favorite class. Let's say, you like battleships, you want to grind up the German battleship line. Cool. But choose a second class to grind on the side in a completely different nation. I'm not saying the German cruisers aren't very good and all, they are, but maybe grind up the American light cruisers on the side too, so you can get a taste of what that's like. It generally will make you a better player overall. And will make the game less frustrating too, because again, you'll understand what other classes have to go through in the game, and it's not all just about your one favorite class. Alright, 4th thing to stop doing. Stop sailing in a straight line. Sailing in a straight line is one of the easiest ways to get blapped in this game and get your health deleted. It still happens at tier 10 all the way down to tier 1. It doesn't matter what class you're in, this is a death sentence when you're sailing a straight line. This makes it beyond easy for the enemy team to hit you. Battleships and cruisers don't have to worry about guessing how you'll maneuver. Torp destroyers don't have to adjust for your maneuvering either. And trust me, torpedo DDs love it when you sail in a perfectly straight line. It's just a free kill for them. When you get spotted, you need to be maneuvering, especially if it's early game. Turn out, don't turn in. Turning it out increases the range between you and the enemy that's shooting at you. Plus, when your bow is out from the enemy team, it gives you much more control over your speed. If you haven't noticed in this game, ships obviously go faster forward, and they also go faster, quicker forward. If you have to reverse, you're stuck at like 10 to 12 knots, unless you're a French ship with a speed boost, and you can go like 18 knots in reverse, which is pretty memey. And plus your bow in, so you're stuck there. You can't turn one way or the other quickly, so you're pretty much dead. So that's why turning out is superior when you're maneuvering. Now, I'm not saying turn out and then go full throttle away from the battle. No, but just it's a better way to turn. So you turn out, let the enemy team miss, go undetected, and then get into your position. And always be mindful of your surroundings too during combat and maneuver accordingly. If there's nothing spotting you, if there's nothing spotted around you, yet you're spotted, that means you're being spotted by a DD, and he's probably already got torps in the water. This is when you throw your rudder one way or the other, either half rudder or full rudder, decrease your speed, and trust me, just doing that right there, turning your rudder for a few seconds, dropping down to half speed for a few seconds as well, that will make that enemy torpedo DD absolutely furious and ruin his day, and ensure that you live. Also, don't get stuck down the ADS site too long. You'll see me do this on stream. I'll be down the ADS sites, fire, then I'll pop out to the free look, which you get by pressing right mouse on your mouse. Look around for a second or two, make sure nothing's flanking me or there isn't something spotted around me, and then go back to ADS. So many players get stuck in that ADS view because they're so focused on trying to hit their target, which is a very important thing, but you can't shoot if you're sunk. So don't sail in a straight line, maneuver, pay attention to your surroundings. Lastly, stop using your consumables early, in particular your damage con and your heal. Now, this is different for each classes, but I'm mostly talking about battleships and cruisers here. And for the damage con, I'm mostly talking about battleships and super cruisers or large cruisers with battleship burn time. You other cruisers, you guys get the lovely cruiser burn time, so you don't even really have to worry about fires too much. And if you're in one of those cruisers with a normal burn time and you're having to worry about fires, you're probably in a terrible situation already, and you may not get out of it. But here's the gist with damage con. If you have the HP and it's just one fire, let it burn, you will live. If you put that fire out, you're vulnerable to until damage con comes off a cooldown, which means, say for example, you get one fire started on you. Use damage con, put it out. Okay, cool. But now, the next salvo that comes up sets two fires on you. Well, you're stuck with those two fires until your damage con comes off a cooldown. And in most ships, on most stations, that's well over a minute or two. Unless you're Soviets and you have the fast damage con. But hey, you also have a limited number of charges there, so you just wasted a damage con. And we all know how much HE spam is in the game now, so we really want to hold on to that damage con. A very simple rule to follow, and again, I'm not saying this is ironclad, this is just something very simple to go by in your head. Again, knowing your ship and what it can and can't take, it's completely up to you, although with fire burning, that's really universal across all the classes. But again, situations, of course, can dictate one way or the other to go from this, but again, this is just a simple rule to follow, and this will generally do you good. So if you have 50% or above HP, 2 fires or less, just let them burn, especially if you're in a battleship or a very large cruiser. You've got the health, you've got the armor to tank more damage, so if it's just 2 fires, let it burn. 3 fires or more, use damage con. 50% or less health. If you got 1 fire, let it burn. 2 or more fires, use damage con. 25%, or in the case of your health bar getting orange or red, use damage con for any fires. Now, of course, if you can ensure that you'll be undetected and have 1 fire on you, go ahead and pop DC. For example, if it's the opening minute of the game and the CV flies over and the Thunderer from the other side of the map fires at you, nicks you, you have 1 fire on your stern, but you know you can just turn out, get some space in between you and the enemy team, go undetected, yeah, go ahead, pop damage con, you'll be fine. Now obviously too, if you can get behind island cover as well and ensure that the enemy team can't hit you, go ahead, use damage con. But again, follow those general guidelines and you'll be much better off than just popping damage con from one fire. Now, the heal. This is something I see a lot of comments about on my live stream and videos. Not using my heal the second it's up. Let me explain. One of the most important elements in this game is your ship's rate of fire. The more shells you can put downrange, the better. Adrenaline Rush gives you the ability to boost that by giving you a boost to your reload at the rate of 0.2% to 1% of health lost. Obviously, healing after taking damage removes this buff. So holding your heal or riding Adrenaline Rush ensures that you have a faster reload. Now this is mostly applicable to battleships. If you're in cruisers or destroyers, you don't really have the armor or HP to do this. It's also situational. For example, if you're in a fairly safe position in a battleship, just down maybe 75% of your HP, down to 75% of your HP, so you lost 25% of your HP, lobbing shells at medium to long range, you're not really under any focused fire, and you're surrounded by your team. This is the ideal time to hold your heal. You'll be throwing your battleship caliber shells at the enemy team at a slightly faster rate. However, if you're actively tanking for your team, or receiving a high volume of fire, or about to push in, yes, use that heal the second it comes off a cooldown. There are obviously risks to this method too. You never know when a random wall of torpedoes or cross-map shops might be snuck in at you, and having your BB up to full health would be the most beneficial to your survival, obviously, in that scenario. But when used properly, it can give you an advantage over the enemy team by having your battleship caliber guns firing faster than their battleship caliber guns. And again, it's also about knowing your ship, its armor scheme, and what it can and can't survive. But when used properly, it gives you a big advantage over the enemy team. Now again, I'm not saying, when you got 5 ships looking at you and you just took a big hit not to heal, but when you can utilize it, it's a big advantage. And a ship's like freaking Conqueror too with a super heal. You can abuse Adrenaline Rush with that ship. You can get down to freaking 10% of your health, but you're in a Conqueror. You got that super heal. You can literally eat a Citadel and heal it out in a second with your heal going. So just be aware of your surroundings. And this isn't really something I would recommend new players do. This is for you more experienced guys out there to do, because again, it's fairly risky. That's why I'd also only use it in randoms as well. It's great for farming or great for fighting in randoms, but when you're playing competitive too, that's a different story. You want your battleship to be up to full HP as much as possible, because you're going to have to be tanking for your team. But anyway guys, those are 5 things to stop doing in World of Warships that will improve your gameplay. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you want me to do another video like this or another tips and tricks video, let me know in the comments down below. Just thought I'd do something a little bit different for I don't know if you really call this a top 5 video or whatever. But anyway, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 35,000 subs, just past 33,800 a few days ago. I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you're all having a wonderful Monday and a wonderful week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.